Right. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to tonight's council meeting. I first wish to acknowledge the Wadawurrung people and acknowledge all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people who are part of the Geelong community and with us this evening. So this evening, as is our practice, we will be broadcasting this meeting on the internet, and a recording of the meeting will be published on the council's website. We have a number of councillors who are on video, so that's Councillor Sullivan, Councillor Story and Councillor Cadwell. First of all, any apologies? I don't believe so this evening. We're all here. There are a number of leave of absence requests, namely Councillor Cadwell for the dates 2nd of June 2025 to the 23rd of June inclusive. Can I have a mover of that? Councillor Wilkinson, and a seconder, Councillor Aitken. All those in favour? That's unanimous. Also, leave of absence be granted to Councillor Story for the dates 9th of August 2025 to the 18th of August 2025. Have a mover, Councillor Contell, and seconder, Councillor Wilkinson. All those in favour? That's carried unanimously. Declarations of conflict of interest, I think we'll deal with those as part of the budgetary process, or do you want to deal with that? Yeah. And where are they?
So if you just call to the council.
Just the council. Okay. All right. Well, I'll invite councillors if they have a conflict, if they'd like to share that with us now. Councillor Kados.
Thank you, Mayor. Just with regard to the confidential section this evening, the item 4.1 on security services, I have a conflict of interest there as I have a close personal friendship with one of the tenderers.
Righto. Councillor Aitken.
I wish to declare a conflict of interest in relation to item 2.1 budget referrals. In relation to Geelong Football Club, I've got a publicly declared conflict, Mr Mayor, because I have accepted President lunch tickets from the Geelong Football Club, in my capacity when I was Deputy Mayor, Mr Mayor.
In previous council, yep, that still counts. That's good. Councillor Nelson.
Mr Mayor, yeah, I have two conflicts as well, one with the Geelong Football Club, the same as Councillor Aitken, and one for Active Geelong as well, as I work with one of the directors of Active Geelong.
Right, good. Councillor Sullivan.
Yeah, thank you, Mr Mayor. Conflict of interest in relation to 2.1 Geelong Cats, same as Deputy Mayor Nelson and Councillor Aitken.
Righto. Anyone else? No. Okay, so we move on. Confirmation of minutes of the meeting that was held on the 27th of May. Can I have someone move? Councillor Katos, seconder, Councillor Wilkinson. All those in favour? So that's carried unanimously. So public question time. So the next item on the agenda, we'll be looking at questions and any submissions. We've received 7 pre-submitted questions from the community, and those members will be called up and will be entitled to speak to those questions. And we also then have a number of petitions later on in the evening. So the first submitter that I have here is Owen Willoughby.
Good evening, Mr Mayor and councillors. Hope you're doing well, and thank you for the stuff you do for our community. It means a lot. The first thing I wanted to ask is, what kind of major events will the council look into holding in Geelong when the events committee is formed and when the exhibition centre is complete?
I'll refer that one to the Acting Executive Director, Margie Mackay. Thank
you, Mr Mayor. So in answer to your first question on what kind of major events will Council hold when the Events Committee is formed, so the Major Events Committee has been operating since 1998, acting on behalf of Council. It manages a dedicated pool to attract, support and grow major events that deliver economic, social and cultural benefits to the region. A key initiative in the Draft Council Plan is the creation of a regional major events partnership. That's an informal, collaborative approach that brings the right people around the table. It's about connecting major venues and facilities across the region to attract new events to Geelong. The aim is to build a strong year-round calendar that reflects the city's identity. So Geelong hosts a strong lineup of sporting, cultural and community events. We aim to welcome more international level championships and expanding further into arts, cultural and creative events. In answer to your second question around when the exhibition centre is complete, does the council have any other plans for big projects to improve Geelong's local economy?
Yep.
So the Geelong Convention Exhibition Centre is obviously a game changer for the region. Once complete, it will unlock new business, tourism and cultural opportunities, boosting weekday visitation for the CBD and through the conferences and events that are held there. In the lead up to the Victorian state election, Council will also be advocating for a suite of priority projects to support Geelong's continued growth, particularly as a major events destination. And these will include the Geelong Gallery redevelopment, completion of the cultural precinct, and the regional indoor sports and events centre. These projects will elevate Geelong's profile and help cement our place as one of regional Australia's leading destinations for major events.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Willoughby. The next question is Barry White regarding Serendip Sanctuary.
Good evening, Mayor and councillors. Yeah, my name is Barry White from the Lara Care Group. We understand that there is a petition that's to be presented tonight concerning developments at Serendip Sanctuary. My questions and comment relate to this petition and also to provide some background to it. The issues involved relate to Parks Victoria's 2022 You Yangs Precinct Master Plan, in which the You Yangs and Serendip Sanctuary at Lara are its major features. A stakeholder reference group was required to be established to review actions and priorities before their implementation, and Lara Care Group was invited as community representative to this process. At the time, Parks Victoria was promoting close encounters with wildlife as Serendip's main attraction. Serendip displayed free-range wildlife, a wide range of protected and endangered native birds and animals, and a threatened species breeding and release program. These could be viewed along Wildlife Walk, the walk through aviaries and open enclosures. Now, the key concern when the master plan was released was the lack of any reference to Serendip's wildlife, which is the cornerstone of its value for tourism, conservation and education. Hundreds of thousands of visitors, in fact, from national, international tourism have visited the site for over 30 years. The lack of reference to wildlife in the plan was no oversight. Parks Victoria's objective was to turn Serendip into an open urban park. By the end of 2022, most of the displayed wildlife had been removed without notice. And before these actions had been reviewed by the stakeholder reference group, as was required in the plan. In 2023, we also finally gained access under Freedom of Information to the initial 2020 business plan prepared by GHD Advisory. This also proposed removal of wildlife and infrastructure as directed by Parks Victoria. Despite community response, which called for the return of the displayed wildlife, reintroduction of the threatened species breeding program, and our submission of a Serendip Wildlife Experience Plan as requested by Parks Vic in 2024, these were largely ignored. Funding needs to be mentioned. We have asked our Lara State member and Parks Vic management several times for transparency about how the $11 million committed to the project is being spent. These are, after all, taxpayer funds. This has not yet happened. Finally, in March this year, I advised the Parks Vic Chair and the Minister that in our view the consultation process has been a sham and we have little choice but to withdraw. We've supported this master plan over 7 years since its commencement, but we feel that the community has been treated with contempt and disdain throughout the review process. My question is, will Council support tonight's petition? I guess we have to wait for the petition. And also the action requested last year for joint community, council and ministerial consultation before we lose an important community asset and tourism opportunity, particularly for the northern region.
Mr. White, I'll refer to the Acting Executive Director for Placemaking, Margie McKay.
Thank you for your question, Barry. The next item on the agenda is the consideration of petitions. Council has received the Serendip Sanctuary petition to be tabled this evening for Council's consideration. So a formal response to the petition will be provided to you in the weeks following the meeting. Please know that officers are working to arrange a meeting between the city's CEO and the CEO of Parks Victoria to discuss the Serendip Sanctuary.
Appreciate that. We did ask 6 times last year for that meeting to take place. We realise it's difficult, but we think it's really important that we get the communication channels sorted out. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Next question is Anne Preston.
Good evening, councillors. I have an email dated the 6th of May 2025 from Alistair Miller, Manager, Community Safety and Regulation, clarifying for me when the meeting relating to drones in the local law was held with Mayor Stretch Contell, Councillor Eddie Contell and Councillor Burson, and what was discussed at that meeting. The email states the Executive Director, City Life, Anthony Basford, and I met with the Mayor, Councillor Contell and Councillor Burson on the 22nd of April. All councillors were extended an invite to this meeting. I explained the Local Law 2024 engagement process, feedback received and the rationale for leaving the permit requirement in the local law. We also explained the process of amending the local law as well as our existing plan to let the new local law run for the first year and come back in 2026 with any proposed amendments. The date of this meeting fell on the date of the April Council meeting, but no mention of the meeting was tabled in either the April or the May minutes. Why was this meeting, which all the councillors were invited to, not noted in the record of informal meetings of councillors?
Thank you. I'll refer that one to the Executive Director of City Life, Anthony Basford.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, Anne. So thank you for the question and the follow-up on this. The record of informal meetings of councillors relating to the briefing you have mentioned in your question will be included in the July Council meeting agenda. This was not previously included due to an administrative oversight, but it certainly will be listed in future. So thank you for raising it.
And the next question is from Marg Burke.
Thank you. I'm joined today by Paul McKenna, who is also a member of the One Fire Reconciliation Group. We ask these questions on behalf of the One Fire Reconciliation Group. Just before I start, I'd like to acknowledge that I am speaking on Wadawurrung country, and I'd like to also pay my respects to elders past and present. So our first question is, in March 2005, we asked the Council a question about the City of Greater Geelong's Reconciliation Action Plan, noting that it was due for completion by 2021 with a review by staff presented to Council and endorsed in June 2022. The March Council response was that the progression and redevelopment of this plan was an operational responsibility. Can Council please provide an update of the progress of the Reconciliation Action Plan implementation and what next steps are planned?
I'll refer that to Executive Director of City Life, Anthony Basford.
Thank you, Mayor. Good to see you again, Marg. Thank you. Thank you for your question on behalf of One Fire Reconciliation Group. The Reconciliation Action Plan activities do remain operational responsibility, and efforts are underway to build the organisational capacity required to deliver meaningful outcomes with our First Nations community. I'm sure you would appreciate the challenges and the sensitivity which that needs to occur. Council is aware that while a commitment to the development of a reconciliation plan remains a priority under our Diversity, Equity and Inclusion Strategy 2025, we continue to refer to our RAP, our Reflect RAP, for guidance, so it hasn't been shelved and forgotten. Council officers have been working with Reconciliation Australia to ensure that the next RAP is delivered appropriately. And I'd also just like to note our commitment to reconciliation was demonstrated recently through Reconciliation Week, and certainly we hope to participate in NAIDOC Week activities as well.
Okay. So my second question, the Walk for Truth, led by Travis Lovett, the Yurrook Deputy Chair Commissioner, passed through Geelong earlier this month. And the more than 1,000 people who attended heard about the absolute importance of truth-telling and deep listening by the wider community as an important step in the reconciliation journey. Can you advise what actions the City of Greater Geelong are currently undertaking to support truth-telling within the Geelong area, noting the awareness and engagement are one of the 7 key strategic pillars in the Victorian Aboriginal and local government strategy?
Executive Director Anthony Basford, if you could please refer to that too.
Thank you, Chair. Wasn't it a wonderful day? I was there with Executive Director Troy, and a beautiful day for a walk as well. Councillors and senior leaders did demonstrate their support through the Walk for Truth, and 2 of our councillors were there as well. I think there was an important message there about the message sticks as well. If you heard the words that Travis spoke, they were really moving. The strong show of community support for the Commissioner Lovett and the Walk for Truth here in Geelong is deeply appreciated. Council hopes that the Yurrook's final report will provide the necessary direction and backing for both state and local governments to build stronger partnerships, deeper relationships and more meaningful outcomes, with the truth being on the record. Council acknowledges the rich diversity of First Nations communities across Victoria and recognises that the Victorian Aboriginal local government strategy and its pillars serve again as guidance for us in our work that we do. The implementation of this strategy at the local level relies heavily on partnerships. Council also highlights the ongoing need for greater support from the state government to assist local governments in applying and implementing that strategy effectively and successfully. Thanks for your questions.
Anthony. The next question is John Winkler.
My question's in relation to the Kiama Lipsum drainage upgrade. At the ordinary council meeting on the 22nd of April, Council urged the community of Geelong to have their say on the draft budget to help get it right. The response from our community was loud and clear. 143 of the total 380 submissions received by Council were in support of the Kiama Lipsum drainage upgrade. We would like to be assured that our drainage upgrade will be completed ASAP. However, if it's not approved in the budget tonight, then those issues raised are still valid and need to be addressed and mitigated. And we want to make sure that happens. So my questions are in relation to 2 of these key issues that we don't want forgotten. Issue 1, the North East Lara main outlet drain runs within the rail corridor and it's become blocked by vegetation and unserviceable. Stage 1 of the drainage upgrade project would bypass this section, so it otherwise still has to be addressed. So my question 1 is, while we are waiting for the completion of upgrade stage 1, could Council please confirm that the open drain will be cleaned and restrictions removed, the date and the plans for regular maintenance of that section within the rail corridor until such time as stage 1 is complete? The second issue, another risk has been directly created by Council itself and will make our situation worse, not better. So Council has recently placed conditions on a large new development at the end of Kiama Drive to raise the full length of that property above flood levels. However, these conditions conflict with the drainage upgrade plans because they will block floodwater that rises in Kiama Drive from reaching the floodway on the other side of that property. The floodwater will be greater heights above our floor levels and exacerbate the existing problems. So my second question regarding that issue is, could Council please confirm that the conflicting planning decision conditions, and they're 7C, 7D, on the 32 Kiama Drive development application, PP-1246-2023, which will isolate us from our floodway and increase risk to residents, will be addressed by either A, ensuring those conditions are effectively reversed, or if not, then B, committing to fast-track the completion of our planned electric pump upgrade that will be needed to remove the water that is trapped as a result. And the second question is urgent, pending the VCAT hearing that's scheduled on that in July. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Those questions are different to the one that I see that was submitted. So in fairness, are you happy to have a shot at those, James? Yeah. All right. So City Infrastructure Executive Director, James Sturton.
Thanks, Mr Mayor, and thanks, John. Good to see you again. And as we spoke about, I'm happy to take, we'll catch up next week and we'll run through these, the other questions that were just slightly different to what has been submitted through question time tonight. But I do acknowledge the local community's interest in the delivery of drainage works to resolve flash flooding within the Kiama Drive area, and also recognise all the work you've done personally to advocate for your community, ensure our councillors are fully informed of the Kiama Lipson Drainage Upgrade project. As we've spoken about in the past, there are many areas within our municipalities susceptible to flash flooding. The City undertakes continual review of potential flood mitigation options and priorities for all areas across the City of Greater Geelong. A key part of this is to ensure that time and resources are allocated to projects which deliver the most significant benefits in achieving flood mitigation relative to investment made. Whilst the Kiama Lipson project is not funded within this budget cycle, as will be tabled tonight, Office will continue to its advocacy efforts to seek grant opportunities to progress this project. We'll continue our proactive elevated maintenance regimes within the area, and happy to take that, the items you've raised tonight around maintenance, and we'll continue to keep you and your neighbours informed of progress, and we will catch up next week as well.
Thank you, James. And just to clarify, the question I submitted yesterday before the close of business was on the condition that when the budget report was issued, I would re-clarify my questions. That wasn't done until late last night, so that I submitted these new questions this morning, and I thought that was clarified from the phone call I had from the council earlier today.
Good, thanks for that, John. Appreciate it. Right, so that completes the submitters in relation to the questions who said they'd like to be heard this evening. So we move on now to petitions. We have two petitions, so I'll first invite Councillor Burson to speak on behalf of residents in tabling the petition dealing with Save the Serendip Sanctuary.
Thank you very much, Mr Mayor. I'm just bringing up the petition in relation to Serendip Sanctuary with it's at around 1,007 signatures. The petition seeks for greater transparency, community consultation and action on the Serendip Sanctuary redevelopment. Obviously you've heard from Barry, who's gone to great lengths and many years of time that he's put into it, and thank you very much, David, for bringing it to the table as well. I've seen both Barry and David at multiple events around Lara in relation to this, and it is, obviously it's not an actual council condition. I've spoken to Tennille. She's mentioned that she's reached out at least 6 different times to try and get some sort of meeting, and obviously we can't force those meetings. However, we will continue to try and develop that. And yeah, ideally, eventually, we'll have a meeting between Parks Vic and Ella and everybody else that needs to be involved. And if however else it is that we can help, we'll keep trying to advocate for that. But yeah, obviously, it's an above us thing. But we'll continue to try as we have been so far. And there might be some other avenues that we can try and lean into that I'll speak to you about later, Barry, if you want. I think that's Is that all I say now? I think that's it. Thanks, Mr Mayor.
I next invite Councillor Aitken to speak on behalf of residents in tabling the petition regarding the Norlane Community Centre proposed upgrades.
Thank you very much, Mr Mayor. Look, I will read out the preamble before the petition and also like to move a motion of response if the council accepts that. So the petition reads to support the Norlane Community Centre to have proposed upgrades funded in the 26-27 budget. The people whose names, addresses and signatures appear below petition the City of Greater Geelong Council as follows. To honour the work the community has put into the redevelopment plans for the Norlane Community Centre, plans that have been costed and submitted for funding in the City of Greater Geelong, noting that partial funding for the upcoming financial year is insufficient by half to complete the project, with no further allocations of funding in budgets going forward, that the City of Greater Geelong recognises that investment in the northern suburbs is considerably lower than in other areas of Geelong, which reflects a lesser degree of prioritisation for a region with an LGA with the lowest percentile disadvantage in the state according to the SEIFA index. In recognition that the proposed redevelopment has been developed in consultation with the community and aims to enhance our facilities to better meet their self-identified needs and include expanded shared spaces to accommodate an increasing number of socially isolated and marginalised community members, creation of a dedicated food relief area and permaculture garden, upgrading existing rooms for greater multi-use functionality, including a dedicated art spaces, a purpose-built kitchen with an external coffee counter and a shower and laundry area which is in desperate need. We ask that an amendment be made to the redevelopment of the Norlane Community Centre be prioritised and allocated according appropriate funding to complete the project in the upcoming 26-27 and or 27-28 council budgets. There was a total of 156 signatures to that particular petition. So, Mr Mayor, my motion of response I'd like to move and seek a second for is that Council notes the contents of the petition. Importantly, thanks the Norlane Community Centre for the highly regarded work it delivers in the northern suburbs of Geelong and refers the funding request to the 26-27 budget process for consideration.
I also have a seconder, Councillor Katos. Anything else to say on that?
Probably very, very quickly. Look, summing up, essentially the project's been started. Council's actually funding it, was funding it this year, but the project needs additional funding to be able to finish it. And I can understand why the community is concerned because there is nothing in the budget to actually complete the project. But hopefully the petition and the council's endorsement that we will refer it to the 26-27 budget process will show our understanding of our responsibilities to actually complete projects and also our responsibility to what is the most low social demographic area in Victoria and Australia, sadly. The largest number of people living in poverty in Australia is actually in Norlane, and it's not acceptable, I don't believe, and I hope the majority of councillors also believe that as well too.
So, Councillor Katos, anything?
Just quickly, Mr Mayor, I was actually out last Thursday evening. I was at the Norlane Community Centre. They had a lovely dinner where they had a program where they've been teaching new arrivals basically cooking skills and also how to run budgets. And it was a great dinner. The students actually cooked dinner and made coffee, and they had a 3-course dinner. It was very nice. But it just highlighted the great work that community centre is doing. So I echo Councillor Aitken's words that it would be good to consider this in next year's, in the coming year's budget proposals.
Anyone else? Councillor Aitken, close?
Nothing further to add,
So we
Mr.
put that to the vote. Those in favour? Unanimously? Right, I think that completes the petitions that we've had this evening. We now move into the report section of the meeting. So the first item is the budget referrals. So I have a mover of that, Councillor Katos, second Councillor Eddie Contell. So, Councillor Katos.
Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Just 1 second.
Oh,
Those who've got conflict are just stepping out.
yes.
What about those on the screen? Councillor Sullivan, you may have to just turn the screen off. Oh, how will he know to come back? We'll text you when you're free to come back.
Yep. Thank you.
Right, thank you. Is everyone else gone that needs to be gone? Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. So basically with the budget referrals, the councillors here who've left the room have got some conflicts of interest with regard to the whole budget. So in this vote we'll do now, we'll be voting on the things in the budget that are regarding the conflicts of interest that those councillors have, being some money towards Geelong Football Club at Active Geelong. And then they can come back in and then they can vote on the rest of the budget. So basically, thankfully, we still have a quorum, because I can imagine what would happen if there was a few conflicts. But anyway, that's basically what is happening here.
Does Councillor Eddie Contell anything?
No, nothing further, Mr Mayor.
Anyone else wishing to speak? If not, put that to the vote. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Right, we'll just wait a second now to round up the councillors. Right, I think we're all back now. Councillor Nelson, Councillor Sullivan, good. Right, so we move to the next item, which is the declaration of the 2025-2026 rates and the 2025-2026 budget. If I can have a mover, Councillor Katos, and a seconder, Councillor Aitken. So, Councillor Katos.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. So I'm pleased this evening to move this motion regarding the adoption of the 2025-26 budget. This is a piece of work that's been going on for many months. Probably by the time we finish tonight, the finance team will be probably starting on next year's budget. So it is a lot of work to get the budget done. And the budget really, it's like balance, it's a balancing act. So we've got to show some financial responsibility, but we also need to, as best we can, meet the needs and expectations of the community. And that can be difficult. We can't fund everything as much as we wish we could. We'd like to provide every service we could and fund everything that's out there, but we have a limited budget and scarce resources, so we have to make decisions. As part of the budget, total revenue of $728 million. If I put that into context, when I was last on council, in 2010 it was $310 million. So that just shows the growth in 15 years. The budget's, that's nearly 150% up. The rate increase this year is at 2.5%, which is 0.5% under the rate cap. So it's a small thing that we've done, but we think it sends a message that we are conscious of budgets and people are doing it tough as far as cost of living pressures. We do have a small cash surplus of $500,000. So it is small, very tight. But it's a surplus, which is what we want. We don't want to be running deficits unless we have to, and we don't want to do that. And there's no new borrowings planned for the next 4 years, which I think is important. One of the things that, particularly the Geelong Council Monitor's report, they were concerned about the level of debt that Council was having in their report to the Minister. And had we not made any corrective action, so our debt at the moment this year is forecast to be $157.6 million, reducing to $136 million in 28-29. Had we not made the corrections and decisions this year, that would have been over $200 million of debt in 28-29. So if we have too much debt, then we don't have the capacity to do things in the future. And our prudential borrowing ratio was 60%, that'll be down to 33%. And that's a ratio, your rates revenue as a percentage of your debt, which is an important ratio. 60% is starting to get red flags. So we're making real conscious effort to reduce that. A huge capital works budget of $204.3 million. And also one thing with the capital works budget, there's a real emphasis on asset renewals and upgrades. Because if we don't upgrade and renew our assets, then they get into a poor state, and then it costs us, the community and council, a lot more money down the track. So it's important to renew and update those assets rather than letting them to fall into disrepair. Then it costs big dollars to fix them. Just on a few things. Submissions. So we're one of the only level of government where the community can actually come and submit and give their opinion on the budget. Whether they like something, they don't like something, they want something in it, they want something out of it. And we're the only level of government that does that. The state and federal government, that's our budget, it's pretty much take it or leave it. So we do have that ability to do that. And on some of those submissions here, I know the member for Corangamite, Libby Coker, certainly talked about footpaths in Mount Dunedin and the school. We've managed to get $150,000 to plan and design those footpaths because it's a catch-22. The federal government may have money available, but unless we've got the footpaths planned and designed, we can't access that money. So I'll certainly, once these plans are done, I'd be happy to drop them off to Libby's office, and would be very keen to see the funding forthcoming to build those footpaths. And then I was also pleased, and also at the same time be waiting for the $1 million for Birdoo Reserve that's been promised. So I'm looking forward to seeing that for the netball court upgrades. So as soon as we get that, I'll be most happy. And then as far as on a local note in Deakin Ward, there's a bit of extra money there for winter reserve. There wasn't enough money to complete the netball court and change room upgrades, so it needed a little bit of money, so it was completed to the level that was originally proposed. So I'm glad that an extra $400,000 is there in the budget to do that. And also just a few other things on the input. One thing that I had a lot of people come to me about was the fire burning fee. So that has been removed. And also the extra $20,000 back in the budget for the Paco Fest I thought was important. A real huge event in the Geelong community has now had the funding back to where it was last year. But with that, I realise I've got some more time later, so I commend the budget to the chamber.
On you, Councillor Katos. Excellent. Councillor Aitken.
I reserve my right, Mr Mayor.
Reserve your right. Right. Anyone else wishing to speak? Councillor Eddie Contell.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Look, as Councillor Katos mentioned, this is a budget of repair, and there are many initiatives in there. And whilst there's a number of initiatives we can highlight and draw attention to in terms of funding of projects, what I'd like to sort of concentrate on a little with the time that I've got is on the charges and I guess taxes, loosely termed, that we're removing. So first of all, after years of lobbying and advocating and campaigning and fighting strongly for the introduction of free on-street CBD parking, in fact since 2015, and the current mayor was engaged in that advocacy as well, and particularly on the back of the community encouragement, we finally adopted free parking on the 10th of April in 2019. We came there scratching and crawling, and so it was extremely disappointing that the previous council chose to cease that significant community support. However, the past is the past, and now it is immensely satisfying and exciting that we finally have a progressive and thoughtful councillor group that's prepared to listen to the community, to the voices of the community, and as such, considering to vote in favour of reintroducing this significant convenience and finance benefit for our community. So tonight we'll be looking to vote for free on-street CBD parking in all 2P zones. And Mr Mayor, should the budget be adopted as put, certainly in my own personal calendar I'll be proclaiming the 24th of June as World Geelong Free Parking Day. And again, 2.0. We've also removed and scrapped a number of other charges, as the Minister of Finance has just indicated. The fire prevention permit for burning off will be scrapped. Given the rising costs associated with waste, particularly those charges that we unfortunately have to collect on behalf of the state government, we need to do something different to try and support the community and also ourselves in terms of reducing illegal dumping of waste. And so as such, we're scrapping and doing away with the additional heaped waste charge for single axle trailers of $107 and also heap charge for utes of $107, and we're reverting back to just charging the standard $80 cost. In order to demonstrate support for non-for-profit charities, community groups, and also the arts and creatives and local filmmakers and the film industry, we are scrapping the proposed $100 charge for minor community events and also scrapping the $150 charge for low-impact filming. Lastly, we're scrapping and removing the proposed $35 fee for refunds in administration. So it's not what we're funding, it's what we're removing to help with the cost of living. Thanks, Mr. Mayor.
Excellent, very good, thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak? Councillor Wilkinson.
Thank you very much. I suppose one of the aspects of this budget, and it's been a complex budget to navigate, but was the inclusion and the maintenance of aged care delivery by council. And I want to really thank the community members who reached out and with their stories and their advocacy, and to our much highly regarded and respected staff who were also on that journey. So it is a significant factor in our budget, and I think as a council group we can be proud for the decision that we made. And moving forward, it's going to create some uncertainty in terms of funding, but really that's up to us now to navigate. So I wanted to just mention that.
Councillor Wilkinson. Councillor Sinclair.
Thank you. This is my first budget process, so it was all very exciting. Learnt a lot. Very much looking forward to next year kicking off as soon as possible. I represent a really rapidly growing area of Armstrong Creek, so we are seeing significant investment in my ward. I'm really excited about seeing some of the new community hubs come on board over the next 4 years, particularly the Horseshoe Bend Road precinct, which is activating not just with the community hub and point of connection, but with sports grounds, and also Blanks Community Hub in the south. Excited to see works on Sparrowvale Dog Park get underway. Unfortunately, there's no greyhounds allowed at Sparrowvale, but hopefully we can work with some of the councillors to find a greyhound solution for going off lead in subsequent years. And just want to acknowledge Councillor Kados, the work around Mount Dunedin Primary School as well. It's a really hot issue in the area and a real concern of safety for families dropping their children off at school. So it's great to see work progressing there. Also wanted to echo Councillor Wilkinson's comments around aged care. I think being able to age in place is really important to the mental health and physical health of the seniors in our community. And I think it's a reflection of the staff at the city, how much this service is adored, and how much the community appreciates this service. So really pleased, and I think we've made a great decision to continue that work. Some areas that I'd like to see in future budgets, so increased investment in social housing and how we look at allocating land to build the houses. We are in a housing crisis. We are seeing increased rates of family violence where women and children need support to be rehoused. And we're just seeing a cost of living crisis exacerbate that. So look forward to working with the council on more options for social housing in the community. And really wanted to acknowledge the public submissions that we heard presented to us a couple of weeks ago, particularly the neighbourhood houses that we spoke to and the work that you're doing, supporting again at that pointy end of the cost of living crisis, and looking again over the next 4 years how we can work to support the neighbourhood houses, and looking in my area as well, what is the best model to build the connection into the community? Do we want neighbourhood house model? Or are we looking at this multi-agency approach, which is still working well? I think I heard this morning Mary Becker putting social workers in some of their community assets, which I'm sure will scare some of my colleagues, but it's an innovative way to meet the need and growing disadvantage in some of our communities. So look forward to exploring that with my colleagues over the next 4 years. Oh, right on 3 minutes.
Just checking with online councillors. Anyone online wishing? If you just raise your hand, and I'll refer to you. Anyone wishing to speak? No. Councillor Nelson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just hurriedly writing some notes. I was just going through the budget papers just to have a look at the projects that are that we're delivering this 25-26 financial year. And as the ward councillor for the last 7 years for the southern part of Geelong, it's great and sad to see that everything is going to Armstrong Creek. The majority of our budget's going to Armstrong Creek, and that's great because they need it. It's a growing area, but as some councillors have pointed out, that means that some other areas don't get as much. I know in Highton we really lack footpaths, which is an issue, but we're getting there because we've got what's called a special rate and charge scheme, which some people like and some people hate. I campaigned last year on freezing rates, and a number of councillors did, but obviously things came up this year with regard to the aged care, as was spoken on. But I can say that at 2.5%, it's lower than most councils across the state. Some councils just set and forget and put their rates at the highest amount they can. We worked as a group not to let that happen, and we tried to keep rates as low as we possibly could. I wanted it 0, but we've settled on 2.5, and I guess that's a good win for the community because we are in a cost of living crisis caused by the state and federal governments, not by us. We're keeping rates as low as we possibly can and charging our community as low as we possibly can. Some of the things in this budget, the female-friendly change rooms at Queen's Park. Something close to my heart is the design of shared trails along the Barwon River and a pedestrian bridge across the river. As I keep beating on about, I like to get cars off the road so that kids can walk and ride to school and don't rely on their parents to take them to school, because that just helps everyone. I wanted to touch on what Councillor Katos said with regard to Armstrong Creek. It's great that we've got the planning money for that. I've been talking to the school and to the local state member for years about putting a pick-up and drop-off inside the school grounds, because that's the safest way for kids to be at school with their parents. And for 7 years, I've got nothing. And now we are where we are. Still no drop-off and pick-up for the school, and now people are starting to complain. I've been on this for 7 years and still nothing. And I'll finish on one of my favourite things, and that's Paco Festa. It's great to see Paco Festa's got $100,000. We all love Paco Festa. We all go down there and we all contribute. Food is the way communities come together. I was a chef for 20-something years. I'll be really quick. There's nothing better than sharing food and sharing stories with your community, because that's what brings the community together. Thanks.
Councillor Nelson. Councillor Burson.
I'd just like to say it's great for a lot of the people in the south have done really well through elections, and obviously in this council one we've done really well. This is my first time around, so it's just trying to work out what you can and can't achieve. Obviously John's been doing this for 40 years, so he knows what he can and can't achieve so far. up in the north, we're excited about getting footpaths and roads, and Anarchy are trying to make it so they can drop their kids off at the school, but they have like 3 poles that stop them from getting hit by cars doing 80 past it. So this budget hasn't been amazing for the northern areas. However, I've been speaking to Anthony and James and others, and I'm looking forward to what happens in the future in related to it. There's some out-of-the-box thinking for drainage and stuff that we've been talking about. And the CEO's obviously been quite happy to talk to me about what she wants me to achieve in the next 3 years. So we didn't really get much / anything in this one. However, in the future 3 years, we should be getting a lot more. So I understand if there's a lot of frustration out the north. I know Anarchy don't even feel like people even know they're part of Geelong a lot of the time, but they are. And we'll be speaking to Ella about ideally being able to sell us better during this state election that comes up.
Councillor Burson. Councillor Aitken, reserved. You're right.
Thank you very much, Mr Mayor. When the draft budget was presented before us, I actually voted against it. And some of those issues have been addressed and some haven't. Importantly, what has been addressed is I could not support a budget that wasn't in surplus or break even. And I congratulate the council group for actually acknowledging that, and the final budget that we're presenting tonight actually does have the aspiration of actually being a surplus. Some of that surplus has been achieved by reducing the ambitions about free parking, and I thank the councillors that supported that we did reduce that so it didn't make such a large financial impact on the 25-26 budget. Some of the challenges that we've got as a council group are still laid bare in the budget document. One of the things I said during the draft time was we need to have greater aspiration in our performance indicator targets within the budget. Sadly, none of those were changed. So I now see it's our challenge as the council group to actually teach the current administration that we do want to be high performing and actually teach them how we can be high performing. If the community does look at page 63 of the final budget, it actually indicates our targeted performance indicators and they flatline. That's not aspirational. We need to actually challenge the organisation and the administration to actually be high achieving. To me, it still isn't acceptable that our waste management, we're currently at over 50% is being diverted from landfill, but our aspiration is actually to reduce that in the final budget that's been presented tonight. So the challenge for us is to actually teach the organisation about our expectations and how we can actually change that. In terms of the budget, I am going to support the budget because we have now got a surplus. And it is important that we reach that position. However, there was a curveball given to us by the federal government yesterday. The federal government announced that all local governments in Australia will be getting 50% of their 25-26 financial assistance grants brought forward to the 30th of June. So that curveball in itself means we're actually going to give a deficit, and our budget's actually already out of kilter because of that major financial decision that's been made by the federal government. And the final comment that I just wish to make is, look, there are some great projects that we still have to challenge ourselves to deliver. I mean, the Northern Community Centre has been presented tonight. I'm heartbroken about the Coomera Drive, Lipson Drive project. They've been in the budget twice. They've been pulled out of the budget price, and that community still has no understanding of when they actually will have a response to it. And that is a challenge that we have to make as councillors. And my final other comment is that there's a total of $1.7 million for fit out in the glass and concrete building, as I call it, across the road. When we do deliver that fit out, and if it does generate leaseholds, council seriously should look at selling that building and recouping the funds that are used for it to actually reduce debt and also undertake the community's aspirations of having assets that it requires. So I'm happy to support the expenditure as long as it does go towards a longer term goal of actually trying to reduce debt. And the best opportunity that we have in the City of Greater Geelong to do that is to change the ownership structure associated with Werribee Nial. And I hope councillors at least view that going forward as well too as a significant opportunity financially that we could consider. So my position is I will be supporting the final budget. Mr Mayor, thank you very much for making it a surplus budget, and thank you to the community that actually submitted, because it was quite significant. And my final comment of thanks is
you've had your final
we actually
comment
had a
2 minutes ago.
the finance team, Mr Mayor. I do want to acknowledge our new CFO, Jennifer Blunt, and actually thank her for the work that she led. This is her first City of Greater Geelong budget process. I look forward to working with Jenny and her team going forward as well to meet the council and community's aspirations. Thank you.
Councillor Aitken, yeah, I was going to, you took the words out of my mouth. I was going to also thank the senior leadership team, the CEO, and our executive directors for the work that they did. We had a truncated period, as we know, as councillors. We got elected only in October, November. Before you knew it, we were into the recess break of Christmas, and we really only had a short period from February, realistically, to now. So we've achieved a heap of work, and I think we could be justifiably proud of hitting a number of very key achievements that, taken together, are quite extraordinary in the current climate at any level of government, namely surplus budget, increased capital works expenditure, increased renewal expenditure. We've committed to no new loans for 4 years. We've committed to reduce debt over the next 4 years, and we've kept rate increases below the cap. Any which one of those is an achievement in itself, and we've achieved every single one in our first budget. I challenge any level of government to aspire to the same level of achievement. You will not find one in the whole of Australia, whether local, state or federal, and I challenge you to find one who has hit every one of those markers. So quite extraordinary, really. So full marks. I said to the media today that it's truly the A-team. The combination of the officers with this council, I think, is the A-team, and we're only going to get better as we continue to work together in future endeavours and budgets. So I'll hand over back to Councillor Katos.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. As I said earlier about the rates, as Councillor Nelson pointed out, a few of us did say we wanted to go for those zero rate rises, but when we did get to council, I felt that debt reduction was more important. You can't have both. You'd love to be able to do it all, but with our resources we can't. So I felt the debt reduction was the most important thing. And a couple of things when you do get your rates notice. There will be 2 items that go up, and they're not City of Greater Geelong responsible for going up. Your waste charges will be going up, 27% increase from the state government. So just be aware of that. It's not City of Greater Geelong doing that. And then the fire service levy, which is going to be replaced with the emergency service volunteers levy, will be going up a lot. Which that levy in particular is not in the spirit of its original intention. Its original intention was recommendation of the Bushfires Royal Commission, and that recommendation was that we went to a property-based system where all property owners in Victoria share the burden of funding our fire services. And when it was introduced, I was in the government that introduced it in 2013. That emergency services, the fire service levy, was simply to recoup the costs of running the fire services. It wasn't to get additional money, it wasn't to get extra money from somewhere else. Unfortunately, that levy is going to go up significantly, and essentially it's become a pseudo property tax to be used by all levels of government. But just remember when you get that levy and the waste charges, we can't do anything about. That's state government that's putting up these levies, and we unfortunately are the collectors of that. So please, I know there's been a lot of talk about people saying don't pay the levy and that. Please don't do that. I encourage everyone to pay their rates and the levies appropriately, as that's not the right thing to do, as unfortunately you'd be punishing the the council for doing that, because we have to send the money pro rata up to Melbourne as we collect it. So with that, I'm sorry to end on a bit of a downer there otherwise the budget's been very positive, but the community needs to know that those two fees, that's when you're going to pick your rates notice up and see the significant rises. It's there. So the community needs to be aware of what those rises are about, and that we are actually fighting, especially about the Emergency Services Volunteer Fund levy, to have that abolished, but that's a story for another day. But apart from that, everything else, I'm very happy with the budget, and I certainly commend the motion to the chamber.
Councillor Katos, so I put that to the vote. Those in favour? That's carried unanimously. Thank you.
World Free Parking Day.
Yeah. Right, the next item is the Community Plan Quarterly Report to March 2025. So Councillor Sinclair moves. Councillor Cadwell, yes, a seconder. You happy? Melissa there? Yeah. So Councillor Sinclair.
Mr Mayor, I'm pleased to present the March quarterly report of our community plan. This is the most difficult time, I imagine, for implementing the community plan. It's right at the very end, and we've already started to work on our next community plan. So as a project manager, I know how difficult it is to keep people going right at the very end and get them over the line. But we're actually doing pretty well. So the community plan tells us who we want to be as a city, and the current community plan that we're operating under says that Geelong wants to be a healthy, caring and inclusive community that has sustainable growth and environment, a strong local economy and a high-performing council and organisation. We committed to deliver 58 actions in our annual plan this year, and as to date, or as to the end of March, 6 of those actions are complete and 72%, 42 actions are on track. So only 6 are delayed, which is pretty looking like a green scorecard as we approach the end of this term, the life of this community plan. Just reminding everyone as well that you have one more day to submit your feedback on the next iteration of the council plan on our Have Your Say page on our website. So jump on, let us know what you think about what's happening next, but please to submit this report to the House.
Councillor Sinclair. Councillor Cadwell.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. I hope you can hear me okay.
Yes.
Fantastic. Look, I think Councillor Sinclair has highlighted the key points. I guess the only other thing I was going to say is just a reminder that there is only one day remaining for people in the community to have their say about the council plan until tomorrow, Wednesday the 25th of June, and they can access that at www.geelongaustralia.com.au/our community plan. The council plan is obviously one of the guiding documents for the city. It sets out the strategic direction for the council for the next 4 years, which will essentially be the current councillor term. And it's a really important opportunity for the community to tell us what they think is working, what's not, and also what's missing. So again, just encourage people to jump on, have their say, and get in quick. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Councillor Cadwell. Any other councillor wishing to speak on the matter? Back to Councillor Sinclair. Further, put that to the vote. Those in favour? That's carried unanimously. The council hardship policy. Can I have a mover? Councillor Wilkinson moves. Councillor Sinclair seconds. Councillor Wilkinson.
Thank you. So council is invited to adopt the updated financial hardship policy. This gives the city, it guides the city on sort of how to provide financial relief to community members who are experiencing significant life events. So obviously the municipal rates, fees and charges are the way that revenue comes into the city to ensure that ongoing delivery of services, important services to our local community are maintained. but acknowledging that there are times of emergency and recognising significant hardship can be experienced by community members. So job loss, family crisis or natural disasters, for example. So this policy supports the city to implement hardship relief and assistance through the deferral of fees, rates and charges, payment plans, fee waivers and other means to reduce the burden of an unpaid debt. The policy does require the city to consider the application for financial hardship, really sort of confidentially and objectively, with a decision to be made within 14 business days of receiving an application and supporting information. So it's a really important tool in terms of council. We've spoken about the hardship and cost of living crisis. We know the rates, for example, of family violence and the impact of financial abuse is a significant one in terms of survivors experiencing that. And this hardship policy is a tool with which the city has to support members of our community.
Councillor Wilkinson. Councillor Sinclair.
Thank you. We've just talked in our budget around a number of measures that we've tried to introduce to help people with the cost of living, but the reality is the cost of living pressures are really high, and sometimes though they won't be enough for people that are in crisis or people that are experiencing really difficult times. I don't think we've ever really associated mortgage holders or homeowners with cost of living crises, but the reality is we've seen homeowners accessing food relief in the last few years. It's a very different economic environment, so having a policy that provides assistance for people, particularly with rates, but also with other fees and charges, is really important for the city to adopt. I think what's really heartening to hear is the team are actually managing to avoid hardship arrangements by being really supportive with payment arrangements and other flexible payment options for people that are experiencing financial stress, and really encourage people that are experiencing difficulty or just feeling quite stressed about how they might make some of these payments to reach out to the team at the city and discuss their options with them, because it is a compassionate team, this is a compassionate policy, and we want to make sure people are feeling supported and not increase stress in what is already a really difficult time for a lot of people. Thank you.
Councillor Contell.
Just very quickly, I just want to support Councillor Sinclair's comments there. Certainly in the last 15 years that I've been on council, the team that manage this area have been extremely supportive of many people in the community. Whenever there has been an issue raised with me, and there's been quite a number over those years where community members are struggling to pay various charges, including rates, the team has been able to work with them and put measures in place to assist them to get through. So I echo Councillor Sinclair's comments that please reach out, whether it be through to our help desk within council or reach out to your councillor, and we will certainly try and assist, and the policy will help us with that.
Councillor Contell. Any other councillor wishing to speak? If not, Councillor Wilkinson, to close.
So like all policies, this one was reviewed, and this is the outcome of that. There were changes adopted in 2021 and feedback from community members, which is really, really important to be included. So proposed changes to the policy and supporting documents, including new references, an extension of the concept of financial hardship and assessment, and updates to the application for financial hardship consideration form. But as my colleagues, Councillor Contell and Councillor Sinclair have outlined, really encourage people to reach out and have those conversations with officers.
Councillor Wilkinson. So I'll put that to the vote. Those in favour? That's carried unanimously. The next item is the draft outdoor dining guideline. Can I move a Councillor Eddie Contell and a seconder, Councillor Ron Nelson? Councillor Contell.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Look, tonight we're asking Council to endorse the draft outdoor dining guidelines for community consultation for up to 4 weeks. Hospitality businesses, community members are invited to our Have Your Say page to provide feedback on the guidelines. In line with our arts and culture and hospitality and live entertainment portfolio, we're continuing to try to listen to that sector of our community to try and help with small business and also with creatives in the arts and culture area. And so the guidelines have been informed through engagement workshops, through surveys, and also just feedback that we've had when we've been meeting with the various groups, because we've had the portfolio over the years off and on, and we've been able to get feedback for this item. One of the trials that we ran over the last 12 months, which the Mayor was heavily engaged with as well, was what we loosely refer to, not necessarily in council, but out on the street, as dining to the wall. And it's al fresco dining where traders can use more of the pathways all the way up to their building, but we then have an access way in between the dining area, such as you would see in some of the hospitality and hotspots in Melbourne. And we trialled that in Little Malop Street through feedback from the traders and building owners, and that was a huge success with the automated bollards. It's that type of thing that we're trying to do with these guidelines, is allowing businesses to apply for permits for more than just footpaths. It might be laneways, it might be plazas, potentially could be roadways, depending on what we're doing with those at any given time. So I really encourage the community, particularly those in the hospitality businesses that are in and around those areas, to provide us your last thoughts on these guidelines, because we're really looking forward to adopting them and then getting on with business.
Councillor Contell. Councillor Nelson.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I won't talk too much more about this other than to say I understand that hospitality is big in the CBD and we all talk about that, but I've got two areas in my ward, Highton Village and the burgeoning shopping strip of Belmont High Street. And it's all good and well to say that we're encouraging outdoor dining, because we know that living in Geelong, you can't sit outside and have a coffee or have a meal for probably a good few months of the year. And that's where restaurants and cafes make their money, is having the consistent trade coming in. So one part of these guidelines I'll really point out, and that's umbrellas and canopies. And they're only allowed where existing shelters, awnings are absent or unsuitable. And a lot of umbrellas that are in restaurants are really heavy and cumbersome, and they're hard for the staff to pick up every day, take them out there, and then at the end of the day, bring them back inside again. So having awnings that are built to withstand 120 kilometre-hour winds will be really important for these businesses to make money 12 months a year, because currently these umbrellas yes, they work, but they're not great for everyone. So being able to have these awnings would be really good for restaurants to make money all year round, or at least tread water for most of the year. Thanks.
So Nelson, anyone else wishing to speak? If not, Councillor Contell
Thanks, Mr Mayor.
Winding up.
Thank you. The beauty of this, Councillor Nelson, you will be so pleased, is that this is not just for the CB, this is for the entire area of Geelong. So we'll be coming down to Ocean Grove, where we can dine outside and enjoy the vistas, into High Street, down to St Albans, all over Geelong. And the other beauty of this, Councillor Nelson, is that I'm sure you'll be advocating with your community to provide that great feedback that you just provided tonight, and you yourself as a councillor will be providing that excellent feedback before it comes to the adoption table, and I'm sure we're going to end up with a great result.
So I'll put that to the vote. Those in favour? That's carried unanimously. The next item is proposed road deviation of Amphlett Way South Geelong. Can I have a mover of that? Councillor Cadwell moves, Councillor Burson seconds. So Councillor Cadwell.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Look, I'm really happy to be putting this item forward for noting and also for requesting consent from the State Government Minister. So this report actually about Amplet Way, which is the renamed section of Carr Street in South Geelong, asks Council to note the outcome of a recent community engagement on this particular proposed road deviation. The section that I'm talking about at Carr Street is actually the section between Lonsdale Street and Swanston Street in South Geelong, which is directly adjacent next to the South Geelong train station. And the specifics of this report is that Council's asked to approve a road deviation of 490 square metres of a current road reserve. And the reason for that is the discontinuation is actually necessary to do essentially a road swap or a land swap to facilitate the exchange of land with Barwon Water. To achieve the objectives of the South Geelong Urban Design Framework, which was adopted in September of 2022. A new roundabout will be constructed at the Bellarine/Lonsdale Street and Amplet Way intersection. There will be reconfiguration and additional car parking provided, centre median car parking provided on Lonsdale Street, which will compensate for the removal of some of the car parking located on Carr Street or Amplet Way. And Lonsdale Street between Yarra and Bellarine Streets will become one way. So the report actually requests that Council requests consent from the Minister for Energy, Environment and Climate Action for that deviation. And that's actually necessary because the road is moving from Crown land onto land which is not Crown land. So it's an administrative process that we must go through. The land will actually be transferred to Barwon Water in exchange for an equivalent area of Barwon Water's land, which will facilitate that road deviation. So essentially, it's a direct swap. The report also requests that the CEO is authorised to publish a notice in the Victorian Government Gazette detailing the road deviation. There was community engagement earlier in the year with one submission received which didn't support the deviation proposal, but council officers have made it clear that this new road will improve traffic flow and allow for open space to be built, particularly a plaza, complementing the entry to South Geelong Station at the eastern edge and improving the overall amenity of the area for the community. And if people are particularly interested to know more, they can check pages 66 and 67 of tonight's council agenda, where there's a map that actually details how this will all actually work. That's all for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cadwell. Councillor Burson?
Nothing further to add.
Nothing further. Any other councillor wishing to speak? Anything in closing, Councillor Cadwell?
No, I think I've said everything. Thanks, Mr. Mayor.
Great, thank you. So we'll put that to the vote. Those in favour? That's unanimous, thank you. The next item is the proposed road discontinuance of land abutting 230 Swanston Street, South Geelong. So Councillor Cadwell, are you happy to move that? Yep. Councillor Cadwell and Councillor Aitken to second. Councillor Cadwell.
Thanks again, Mr. Mayor. This report actually asks Council to endorse a process of community engagement about a proposal to discontinue a very small section of Barwon Terrace, which is actually located within the Landy Field facility. It's a little bit of an anomaly. The area in question is approximately 2,150 metres squared. It's historically been used as a part of Landy Field, despite it actually officially being part of the Crown Road Reserve. The report notes that the recent upgrades to the track and the pavilion at Landy Field, which will now be funded, hopefully, given we've just passed our budget, have highlighted the need to formally address this particular encroachment. The particular area is already fenced and used as part of the existing Landy Field facility, so there's no changes to the existing fence line or the facility, or importantly to the road at Barwon Terrace. All of the existing Barwon water and power port infrastructure will remain in place and accessible for maintenance. and this report recommends that Council appoint a submissions review panel if we do receive any submissions from the community, to hear from anyone who wishes to verbally present their submission, and then a further report will actually be presented to Council after that engagement process is complete. So finally, I just encourage the community to make submissions if they're interested, also to present that submission to the panel. And if they want more information, there again is a map on pages 71 and 72, which highlight the section of land that is parallel to Barwon Terrace. And again, just talking about the budget, of course, the exciting news that Landy Field is, with the approval of our 25-26 budget, we've approved $4.8 million to refurbish the facilities at Landy Field, which will include a full upgrade of the very dated pavilion, bringing the facility into sort of the modern times, modernising the entire facility with social rooms, club rooms, first aid facilities, training facilities, which obviously will be available to all of the local athletes currently using Landy Field, and sporting groups, community groups in our community, sporting groups in our community, and essentially offering a world first training facility and regional facility for regional athletics and other sporting events, which is very exciting for the local Geelong community. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Councillor Cadwell. Councillor Aiken.
Look, I think Councillor Cadwell's spoken in detail with it. I only just wish to point out we didn't really understand that there was an issue there until we actually started planning for the $10 million pavilion and the recent upgrades that occurred on Landy Field, and we realised that Barwon Terrace, it's wider at one end than what it is down the other end, and of course we learnt that the road reserve was actually part of the Landy Field track area. So I congratulate the officers that are cleaning up what has been an anomaly that no one has actually really noticed before, and the pavilion really, the $10 million pavilion, when it is built, will actually be the greatest sporting regional facility in Australia when it is completed, Mr Mayor. So if it does get open under your leadership, you certainly are going to have an incredible asset when it is developed, and of course jointly funded by the state government of Victoria with $5 million and the good rate-paying residents of the City of Greater Geelong with $5 million, Mr Mayor.
Ms. Aiken, I'm enjoying the track already, so this will make me run even faster, that pavilion. Anyone else wishing to say anything? If not, back to Councillor Cadwell. Further?
Oh, nothing further, Mr Mayor. Thank you very much. I think you've summed that up, and along with Councillor Aiken, summed that up nicely. Thank you.
That'll be great. So put that to the vote. All those in favour? That's unanimous. Thank you. The next item is a special rate and charge in regards to Newcombe Street in Drysdale. Can I have a mover of that? Councillor Story, is that your hand up? Yes, Councillor Story. And Councillor Sullivan, as I see your hand there. Yeah. So Councillor Story.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. We seek a resolution by Council to declare a special charge scheme to co-fund the sealing of 105 metres of Newcombe Street, Drysdale, between Princes Street and the Glen. The proposed road construction sealing works have been developed in response to complaints and a petition received from residents requesting to seal the road. This will improve amenity, road safety and limit the impacts from dust, mud and stones scattered to the adjacent properties. Council resolved its intention to declare a special charge scheme at our meeting of the 28th of January 2025, and a public notice and letters to all benefiting property owners were sent containing all relevant scheme information. The total scheme cost is estimated at $132,768. Property owners will be required to contribute $94,044, that is 71%, based on the apportionment of cost and special benefit to adjacent properties. Funding for the total scheme will include a city's community benefit contribution of $38,724. There are 10 properties abutting the proposed road sealing work that will receive a special benefit. One formal submission was received in relation to the proposed charge. The submitter's objection was acknowledged and responded to. They did not wish to speak to Council of their submission at a submission review panel hearing. Should Council declare the scheme, there is an opportunity for submissions to be sent to the Victorian Civil and Administrative Tribunal for further consideration and determination. I think it's instructive to note that 105 metres will require $132,768 to seal. Given the roads that are unsealed in our city of Greater Geelong, this is quite a salutary figure to note. The recommendation is that Council resolves to declare the special charge scheme as described in the papers at page 293 and page 294. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Story. Councillor Sullivan.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I endorse all the words of Councillor Story. He's summarised it all very, very well. Yes. We'll note that 8 out of 10 properties were in support of this, which is a very high rate of approval for an SRC. I also like to commend the council officers on their work with this one. They've been very engaging not only with us council laws, but the community as well, and getting constant updating communication is very important for these projects, and I think they've done a fantastic job. So it's a great one all around for everyone involved.
Thank you, Councillor Sullivan. Any other Councillor Wilkinson?
Thank you. I would like to reiterate Councillor Sullivan's praise of officers. The SRCs are really, really challenging. They require really effective, ongoing communication, and can be quite fraught. I think, as Councillor Ron Nelson said, some people love them, some people hate them. So, thank you to officers.
Councillor Wilkinson. Any other councillor? If not, Councillor Story, back to you to close.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Echoing my colleagues' comments, this process is clearly a robust and procedurally fair process that the city has developed, I guess, over a number of years, and I concur with the comments regarding the officers' work with regard to these processes. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. So with that, we put it to the vote. Those in favour? That's carried unanimously. The next item is planning authorisation regarding council to staff. Can I have a mover? Councillor Katos moves. Councillor Nelson second. Councillor Katos.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's a fairly simple motion here before the chamber. Under various state government acts, we can have authorised officers, but the authorised officer has to actually be appointed. And in this case, under the Planning and Environment Act, we have Aaron Jones being appointed under the Planning and Environment Act as an authorised officer. And that's basically the motion before us.
Yeah,
pretty easy one.
Pretty simple. Councillor Nelson, anything further to add?
No, nothing further, Mr. Mayor.
Anything further? Anyone else wishing to speak on the matter? If not, Councillor Katos to
close. Nothing further.
So we put that to the vote. Those in favour? That's carried unanimously. We then move to section 3, which is a number of... is it section 3? Yes. Confidential matters, isn't it? Record informal meetings. Sorry, record of informal meetings of councillors. Councillor Nelson moves. Councillor Eddie Contell second. Councillor Nelson? Councillor Contell? Anyone else wishing to speak? No. Councillor Nelson in closing, I think.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's just a record of informal meetings of councillors from budget sessions to strategic sessions. Thanks, Mr. Mayor.
Put that to the vote. Those in favour? That's carried unanimously. Now we move to section 4, confidential. The first item, security services. May I please have a mover and a seconder to consider this matter in confidence? Councillor Burson, seconder Councillor Wilkinson. Those in favour? Unanimous. The next item is the Arboricultural Service. May I have a mover and a seconder consider this matter in confidence? Councillor Wilkinson and Councillor Katos. Those in favour? That's unanimous. The next item, also to move for consideration in confidence regarding the Regional Indoor Sports and Events Centre. May I please have a mover and a seconder. Councillor Eddie Contell, Councillor Katos. So those in favour? Carried unanimously. And the last item to move into confidential is CEO employment remuneration matter. So have a mover, Councillor Wilkinson, and seconder, Councillor Burson. So all those in favour? Carried unanimously. I think that's the last of the